What is RAHAM?
RAHAM is an acronym, Response Able Hands and Minds. It stems from the word responsible. If I'm able to respond, then I ought. Um, it's a nonprofit organization. I never saw myself operating in this capacity, but for a necessary vehicle to earn my redemption, I could find no better vehicle, you know, as a way to, gain support and get to the land and get to the resources in the city. It's a lot going in the city in regards to the nonprofit and faith-based sector. So it's the perfect vehicle to earn my redemption.
What do you have going on?
Initially, the space where I caught, my case and made the messes. I came home 15 years later, and it's a vast, green, beautiful space. So initially, and though we call it a park, Saratoga Community Park, initially the idea, was to build a space, for community to commune, break bread, recreation, a basketball court, a playscape, a track, benches and, flowers and colors or whatnot, and the downside of it is that, right around the corner, somebody is, dying of an overdose or, prostitution is, heavy, right, like right up the street around the corner. So these two things can't exist. So we had, come up with what we call the Safe Space campaign. And it's an indirect approach. We're not walking up on nobody saying nothing to nobody. It's indirect measures that we believe will deter certain type of activity. Green lights on people's porches, signs that saying I'm a responsible neighbor. Getting tighter with the block club initiatives and creating radio control and communication between citizens. Lights on Chalmers, Chalmers Avenue right there, red light district. It's lights there, but we need like the solar, high luminous, powerful lights that when motion is made, it just put daylight on that thing. It makes me remember or recall when we began to make the mess, we would shoot out the lights, because darkness, is desirable to the criminal element. So lights would be or would have the opposite effect, So Saratoga Park and the Safe Space campaign, those are the two major things we got going on.
Talk a bit more about the Safe Space campaign.
Well, in this capacity, again, that I never saw myself operating in. I attend a lot of community meetings, some of them with law enforcement, and you learn that the mess is a mess that's so big, law enforcement couldn't no way do it, in and of itself. So the community and the citizens have to play a part. And for me, it's a natural thing. Even in the gang element, we took care of our neighborhood, of our block. We prided ourselves on it. So we not mobbing on nobody, talking about stop selling dope or get out. Basically we just creating a different environment. And then, I don't know a sensible gang member or a real gang member that would tolerate, Trevor Singh Ellis was killed by the so-called serial killer and dumped in a house, like right in our area, like, so I don't know nobody who would tolerate that, like, even in our worst state, we wouldn't have tolerated that. So, that can't exist with what we're trying to do. So, Safe Space campaigns is very necessary.
What are your qualifications?
Well, again, I made the mess. I believe that the same process in reverse, like I say, we took away the lights, bring back the lights, turn them up. We defile property, beautify and rehab property. when there's no space or decent space to live, all those people left. So it's like, a ghost town of sorts. So we hope that if we rebuild, then the people would come back, right? So it's just a reversing of the process. I'm a social scientist. I used to sit on the rooftop in my gang banging days and connive and contrive ways, to establish my flag around this thing, right? So it's the same thing, one of my mentors, Albino Garcia, we was walking down the street in New York, cold, and he called me D, Detroit. He like, D, everything you take, you gotta give something, so, and I say that to say, like, it's the same thing, houses boarded up, we'll put safe space, fluorescent green spray paint, right? So we still painting on the walls, we still thinking territorial, we still thinking protect ours, right? It's just on a more progressive and constructive note.
What challenges do you face in your endeavors?
Not being, again, this nonprofit thing and the official specs and the budget and all this stuff is like, it's new language. It's something brand new, and it's hard and it's challenging, and I don't think people expect people like me to, figure this thing out, but that's exactly what we're doing, we learn where we can, we teach where we can, we stay humble, but it's challenging. And then, again, putting on a different suit, going into, like I just was at a meeting at the 9th precinct. I never went in that thing in the front door. Been there several times, always through the back door, through the side door. So getting over your own personal, fears and issues or whatnot, that's challenging, but very necessary.
Coming from where you come from, is it awkward attending those meetings with law enforcement?
Absolutely. Like I say, I never went in the front door, and then, for one thing, it's very necessary. I don't know if you would ask the question of the necessity of it all, but it's necessary because, I was just talking on Let It Rip about how we have a distrust towards law enforcement and how they have to, make themselves or present themselves to the community in a way that's not threatening or where we don't look at them like a us and them. And I found, in the 9th precinct, a sergeant, a captain who looks like me, with programs in place to help the youth. I don't like when people say, little Johnny did so-and-so, throw him away for the rest of his life, with nobody endeavored to intercede on little Johnny's life, right? As to give him an alternative, as to teach him something different, right? So when I hear of law enforcement having programs to engage the youth, it's like we on the same page right there, I don't like, of course, people say, well, they do this and they do that, but that goes for us too. I don't like a hypocrite in no uniform. For example, we have a lot of so-called gangs and gang members that's hypocrites. If you really plug in to what it is you're doing and where it come from, you'll find the cultural element, you'll find the love for your people, you'll find, different principles than those that you're living by. So I say that to say, if law enforcement is acting other than law enforcement, then that's simply a hypocrite, and I don't like hypocrites, period, right? Woe to the hypocrite, right? But again, those with that, that humanity, that love for their people and for their community, we gotta put all forms of the scenario gotta be tied together. All bridges and gaps gotta be bridged and mended or whatnot, or we're not gonna